get to week 7, and it's a study of light and a study of confession. I want to ask you a question. When you hear the word confession, what do you think? You don't have to get theological on me, just when you hear confession, what do you think of? Catholic upbringing. You're going to hear that one a few times. Yep. I think of a booth, a little screen. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. Do you think it's being real and truthful, which is great? Yep.
Agreeing with God.
Agreeing with God. Vulnerability.
Bearing your soul.
Burying your soul. Is that what you said? Yeah, that's great. So here's what will probably happen in your group. When you ask that question, or you get them to think about that question, most people will talk about just sharing their sin. And what we want to do is broaden the conversation about confession to be much larger. So there's a whole bunch of passages of Scripture where the actual Greek word for confession is used, but you'll see it's used in so many different awesome ways. Some of it's agreeing with one another. So I can confess my love for men. Right? So confession can sometimes just be a really, really cool thing. Like sometimes it's just agreeing with two people. When they confess to one another, they're coming in agreement with each other. So we want to broaden the understanding of confession. And then the great question is, so how do we live out confession in community? What does that look like? So it'll open up a great opportunity for conversation. So that's week 7. We study light. If you've ever just done a word study of light, well, if you haven't, you're about to. Light starts in Genesis and goes through Revelation. God as light is a theme throughout all of Scripture. Well, what does that have to do with curtains? Right? We put up curtains to keep the light out. We put up curtains to hide. And so there's this opportunity to say, like, if God is light, why don't we just expose what we have to God? So, great places to land in week 7. There's a couple of important things I need to point out to you. The observation of light, the conversation about confession. I would do Psalm 32, which is page 105. I would make sure you do the now and quote on page 108. Page 114, where are you? And then I would make sure when you get to the what's next that you get to the conversation of thinking about or talking a little bit about what's next for your group. This is the week, if you haven't already started talking about it, to give a little time to, so what do you guys want to do next? And it may be nothing. We're all done. Thanks for having us. Our group is finished. I'm betting, I'm fairly confident that the vast majority of groups are going to have begun something that they want to continue. So this is where we start talking about. We will make a commitment to have some stuff for you. I'm fairly confident, although I've told no one this yet, I might get in trouble, that we're going to study Ephesians coming out of the Church Without Curtains. So we'll probably have some Ephesians studies, or we may even just, by now, have gotten so used to doing the How Was Sunday for you, we may want to go to. So what's next for the group is, do we want to stay together? Do we want to study something? Do we want to just talk about what happens on Sunday? Do we want to meet every other week? When would we meet? So that's when you start that conversation. But I also want you to make sure in week 7 that you point their attention to an exercise that's on page 124. Okay? Yes. So what you want to do is tell them in week 7, hey, I want you to see that there's this assignment in case you have some people that aren't really doing their homework, because every group has a few of those. They're going to want to do this. So the idea of this exercise on page 124, I think I just said, here's the deal. You are going to write a encouragement card to every person in your group. And it only has to be as a couple sentences. Chris, as we've gone through the group together, I love the way you've drawn other people in, and been such an encouragement to me. So you just get an index card, you can get fancy cards, you can get sheets of paper, it doesn't matter. But here's the deal, if someone doesn't do it, they're going to feel funny that day. They're going to feel really weird because everyone will have done it, and they're going to be like, oh gosh, I'm feeling weird because I don't have any encouragement cards. So you're just going to want to make sure you just sort of say to everybody, look, this is one of those things you're all going to want to do. It's not as hard as you think it is. Just picture the person in your mind. Say, Ed, write it down, 2 or 3 sentences. You don't need to write a book. just need a word of encouragement.